All right, when we look at stress in the immune system, we look at different errors that occur within the immune system. So you would have an autoimmune disease, which is where the body attacks its own healthy cells because it thinks it's invaders. And it can do this for really any part of the body, like Crohn's disease, Hashimoto's disorder. All of those, the body mistakes the healthy cells of the body as invaders and attacks the immune system. Immunosuppression would be the decreased effectiveness of the immune system. These are terms that we've been hearing a lot lately, especially since COVID, where people become susceptible to infections or illness because of different things that suppress their immune system. Psychoneuroimmunology is the study of how psychological factors influence the immune system, specifically looking at the functioning of it, how stress can impact it, how we can overcome things because of classical conditioning, several different things. And so we've learned that the stress hormones released during stress, the hormones that are released during stress, do inhibit the production of the lymphocytes, which are your white blood cells that are going to be the immune system and be fighting and really sending everything to battle. And so it's really important for us to decrease our stress so that our health can stay intact. With your immune system, you have the foreign agents known as antigens are going to enter the body. So let's say there's a cut, there's an illness, something. The body notices those invaders immediately, sends the white blood cells to come down and to fight. Okay, so this is kind of like your soldiers for your battle. They have their own antibodies that have been created by other antigens that have come in their way. And so they've been able to create their own antibodies for you so that once you're presented with something, they have some type of battle plan and they're able to kind of overcome it. Okay. And if they've never been exposed to it before, then your body will replicate the specialized, the formula, the proteins or whatever, so that it can beat it the next time you see it. So inflammation occurs whenever you have some type of injury. And again, the body's rushing to fix that. And so it's bringing a supply of white blood cells. All this blood is going to it, and then they can heat up and maybe have some swelling or something because there's an increase of supply there. But it's heating up, and that's what's causing the warmth, and the redness can be the battle that's going on. So stress eventually exhausts us. And as we get exhausted, it stimulates the production of steroids. Now, these steroids are meant to help us, to give us a little boost of energy, to fight and to keep going. But the bad thing about it is that it suppresses the function of the immune system. We just talked about the white blood cells, the antibodies, that inflammation, and it suppresses that so it can't fight. So then we become ill. So if we have persistent secretion of these steroids, it decreases the inflammation and interferes with the formation of antibodies. These are just a couple of studies to show the effects of stress on the body and kind of the ways that we can overcome it. Cardiovascular disorders are going to play a central role in the stress response. It's really important for you to make sure that you control your stress because it does impact your health in other ways. So people, specifically type A people, are going to be more at risk for heart disease. Having high blood pressure leads to heart disease. When you have high blood pressure, it can be from diet, it can be stress, it can be that you just have too much pressure on you and that's elevating your blood pressure, and that can be causing the problems there. It can come from anything. Job strain, marital conflict, natural disasters makes the heart work harder, which then puts a physical strain on the heart and can lead to heart attack, stroke, heart failure, kidney failure, and blindness. So it's really important for us to decrease our stress so that we're not putting extra stress on our heart. Okay? Negative affectivity is the tendency to experience distressed emotional states involving anger, contempt, disgust, guilt, fear, and nervousness. We need to keep all of this intact, under control, so that we don't impact our heart. So finding healthy ways to de-stress. You have type A people and type B people. Type A people are going to be the ones that are very driven, very competitive. They're your CEOs of companies. They are passionate. They are impatient. They're the individuals who can't stand slow talkers or slow walkers, maybe even slow drivers. That may be all of us. they're rushed, they can be hostile to others. Their catchphrase is kind of life. Let's get to the destination and then we'll enjoy it, rather than life's a journey and we'll just enjoy the ride. Okay, so they want to get to the destination first. And so it says that people who are prone to heart disease tend to feel and think and act differently than those who are not. Type A people are more prone to heart disease than type B, actually over 7 times more. Type B, these guys are way more relaxed. They are laid back. Their phrase is, let's enjoy the journey. It's okay if we take a couple of pit stops, if we go out of our way. It's a journey and we're going to enjoy it. Type A, no way. So if you want to take your test and find out what type you are, you can there. But it's really, there's some positive things of being a type A. They're going to get a lot of stuff done, but they may be too stressed. Type B, there's some positive there. They're much less stressed. Their health can be, not always, is better, because maybe they're less stressed, but maybe they're not motivated enough to do other stuff to keep them healthy. But they're not going to get as much done as type A because they're so laid back. So you really need a healthy balance between the two. So just a couple more studies showing you what's going on with that. Asthma is a chronic disease that can be impacted with stress. So there are psychological factors that are playing an important role in the difficulty of breathing that's caused by the inflamed and narrowed airways with asthma. And it says that they report a high level of negative emotions like anxiety. Asthma is linked to periods of high emotionality, and exposure to stress can make it worse throughout your lifespan. So it's really important that you take care of your health for multiple reasons. That stress impacts your health, so we've got to take care of that stress. Okay, there are 2 different ways that people cope with problems, with issues that they have faced. And not one is right or wrong. We use both of them all the time. Problem focused is where the individual manages to alter the problem or try to fix it so that whatever's causing them the trouble. So they identify the problem, they look at all the possible solutions, weigh the costs and the benefits, and then they're able to determine what's the best decision to solve it. They're proactive in the problem, and they're going to use that when they believe that it's a controllable issue. Emotion focused is your efforts to change or reduce the negative emotions associated with it. This is when we can't make a change, so we're going to try to deal with the emotional side of it. So it includes avoiding, minimizing, or distancing oneself from the problem, or positive comparison with others, or seeking something positive in a negative event. So you're really treating the symptoms and not the cause. So for instance, I'm a very problem-focused person. I try to adjust the problem anytime I can so that it doesn't cause me more stress. But in the event that I'm having right now, my son, who I've spoke with his teacher, I thought it was going to be a great school year. I've asked her for a couple of accommodations in his diet, and she's not budged. In fact, she was actually rude and made it difficult. And so I gave her several solutions. He needs to eat food that comes out of the refrigerator, and she doesn't have a refrigerator. And so I was like, well, the kindergarten teacher said he could put the food in there. I had all this stuff laid out of how we could get him the food he needed. And she said, no, I'm sorry. He needs to eat shelf-stable food. I was like, well, okay. So I can't change what she's doing. I can't make her change her mind. So I just quit talking to her about things. I quit asking her for help on different things. I distance myself from the problem, and I just avoid her at all costs. It's not fixing my problem at all, actually, but at least makes me feel better. If I don't think about it, if I try to fix it, I just send that poor baby more food that he has to carry, and he just comes home hungry and we eat. So I can't really control the issue, but I can at least distance myself and only talk to her when needed so that it doesn't cause more stress. But it's really important for us to find ways that can help to decrease our stress. Even just having predictability can help us to feel less stressed. You guys can't determine when I have due dates due for your homework or how much homework you're going to do, but I can lay it all out where it's predictable. You know the day that homework is going to be due. You know when the tests are due. You have the syllabus that you can look at to see. And while you can't make the decision of how I'm going to run the class, you've been able to see how I'm running it thus far, and that's going to help you to realize the predictability, and that will help to decrease your stress. Perceived control also can help us decrease our stress. Even if we don't have control over the situation, believing that we do or looking at it in a different way to make us think we have control helps us to feel better. Again, you have no control over the due dates I've put in this course, nor do you have control over the assignments I have. But what you do have control over is when you choose to do them. They're open early, so you can go in early and you can complete them on your time schedule. And so it causes less stress. Maybe you know that your homework's going to be due on a very busy day, so you can work on it early. If it's not open yet, you can always email the instructor to say, hey, I know that next week's going to be really busy and I need to get ahead of my homework. Could you please let me go ahead and do it? And that will help. It makes us feel less stressed. I know one year I was in grad school, I was working 4 different jobs. It was just a very busy time. And I knew that I was going to be starting this class in January, and I had the whole Christmas break to have time off. So I emailed the professor and I said, hey, I know my semester is crazy. I was wondering if I could get the syllabus even last year so I know what chapters we're looking through and I can work on it over the break. And so I did. I read the entire book over the Christmas break, so it was less difficult for me whenever it came time to take the course because I was working so much and had school. And so I didn't have any control over what the assignments were going to be and what we're going to do, but what I did have control over was when I could study and how I could get ahead so that I would be successful in the course. Perceived control does help our health and our happiness. We have greater personal control that's associated with it, better physical and mental health. You have a greater psychological well-being if you feel like you just have some control in the situation. And then it decreases your stress or your reactivity to stress in your daily life. So it is helpful to even have the idea that you are in control. Albert Ellis is a rational therapist, and he developed rational emotive therapy. And I love this. He calls it stinking thinking. What he does is he says, stop thinking about the bad things and the negative things and get rid of that stinking thinking and think about rational thoughts. So if you got a bad grade on your homework and you tell yourself, well, I'm a horrible college student, I'm not made for college. Well, is that true? Well, probably not, because you made 100 on your last homework assignment. Did you give yourself enough time to do this homework assignment? Yeah, you're probably right. You didn't. You didn't give yourself enough time. So it's not that you're a terrible student and you can't be a good college student. It's that you didn't give yourself enough time. So he finds the irrational thought, that self-defeating behavior, those stinking thinking, and he gives you rational thoughts. All right, so next time, let's take a minute and we will de-stress. We will give ourselves more time and we won't become as stressed and we'll be more effective. Okay? The other thing is that people often feel stressed because of their own thoughts. There are many times that we catastrophize something and blow it out of proportion. I remember my first teaching job ever. I was teaching high school science, and I had a student who was having some trouble with her significant other. And so she came to me and she asked me a couple of questions and wanted some advice. And I'd heard all the rumors that were going around about him. And my advice to her was, if he doesn't treat you right, you don't need him in your life. And she was like, okay. So I went home that day, didn't feel really great. It was a Friday night, went home and went to bed. I was very poor, I was fresh out of college, and I was living with my parents. And my dad gets a phone call, he answers it, and it's for me. And so it was my teacher who was the teacher before me. And so I actually had replaced the teacher that was my favorite teacher. And she called me and she told me that my teaching career was over. The significant other just so happened to be her son. And she was mad at me because of the advice I'd given the young lady. And she told me, she said, your teaching career is over, find a new career, all of this. So I already didn't feel good. I laid in bed the rest of the weekend. Monday morning rolls around and my dad's like, are you going to work? And I'm like, no way. I need a new job. I was job hunting all weekend. He's like, I think you're blowing this out of proportion. I said, no, I'm not. I'm not going to have a career. And so I'm not going tomorrow, today. And so he made me go to work. He said, you at least need to go